Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nom Talk Review, where we review the latest hits or the classics, celebrating a tentpole anniversary, and we discuss it with our friends while we nom on our favorite foods. Today, we are joined by Cristobal, aka the Tofu Waifu, and Bryan, the Wayward Scientist. I'm so excited to have these guys here. These guys are my buddies. I'm excited to have them on. And we're talking about something that all three of us love dearly. That is Evangelion. More specifically, we are talking tonight the End of Evangelion, the movie from 1997. It is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Wow. I can't believe it.
I can't believe this one.
Have I been suffering for that long? Like, it's crazy to think about.
I know, right? So I'm joined. My guests, I'm so glad to have them here. What are you guys nomming on? What are you guys eating? Bryan,
I have mine over here. This is simple delicacy. Are we allowed to show the labels, or should we?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I got some Trader Joe's graham crackers.
Nice.
So good.
I'm enjoying some Morton salt. I tore the lid open so I can pour it more effectively into my face. And that is what I can reach with my arms right now.
That's gonna increase the blood pressure.
Yeah, I might need a glass of water.
But, I mean, you got an awesome burger waiting for you afterwards.
I ate it. I ate it.
Oh, you already ate it?
Oh man, you couldn't make it. You couldn't make it.
I personally am just sipping on some good old fashioned water. Essence of life.
Same.
Speaking of essence of life, I mean,
water.
Like, well, that now we got that out of the way. I would actually love to know what you guys would rate this movie. So for everybody who doesn't know, what we do here is that we rate the movie out of buckets of popcorn, usually 5 out of 5 buckets of popcorn, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. I would love to know what you guys would rate this. Bryan, what would you give this the End of Evangelion out of how many buckets?
End of Eva 97 version, like 5 out of 5 buckets of popcorn. It was like my first, like, I feel like official existential crisis based amongst fictional characters. And it absolutely ruined me for a period of time, questioning, life, its meaning, the people in it. Why are we all doing this? And I really loved that about the original 97 version. I mean, but I'm gonna throw out, if you can only watch it on Netflix, I'm only giving $4 it's a popcorn to the version you can watch on Netflix. I feel like it doesn't have the embedded self-loathing and sense of dread of the original, and I feel like it's just missing something with that. But 97 Ava, 5 out of 5 buckets. Absolutely. Buckets on buckets.
Buckets on buckets. Cristobal, what about you?
I actually give both versions a 5, but I know the focus is on the original 97 version, but it's one of those anime movies that really it hits on another level. Like, I know we're going to talk about it later. I don't want to get too into it, but like the fight with Asuka against, what was it, like the 12 different angels or something, the like advanced units, that entire scene just still, you feel it as it's going through. And then when she gets impaled in the eye, you're just like, that moment is iconic. There's so many good things about that movie, and just it's one of the best anime movies I think of all time, and it's just the perfect send-off for Evangelion, even though it still doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense.
I feel that. I personally, I'm going to be giving it a 4 out of 5. It's not exactly the GOAT movie for me. I'll get into it later, but mostly because like I was kind of young when I first saw the first Evangelion. The ending was really confused. I didn't really get to see this movie until I got older, and I kind of had like my childhood memory of it kind of being like this weird, like abstract thing that I didn't really quite understand. And then I was like, oh yeah, this movie, and it's probably the most violent thing you will ever see from the Evangelion
For a certain
series. I mean,
yeah,
like you get like you've got like aliens like killing each other and what have you like throughout the series, but like then you suddenly have like this, which is straight up like this is just human death everywhere you look, and it's just crazy, and it's also just visually, it's just like if you didn't need if the other episodes of Evangelion made you have to go to therapy, this one puts you in the padded room. Like I feel like with some of the stuff that ends up happening.
It's a mixed bag because like as much as I like the movies, and I do like the movies, and I'm saying movies plural kind of liberally because I feel like the first movie is just a recap of this.
Yeah, it's literally a recap.
Yeah, and then you've got the new story, which is just the baby down version of the last episode of Eva. I thought personally was perfect. I thought the confusing nature of just the existential breaking down of mankind into a giant goopy soup, like just being represented very suddenly, very drastically. Like, I know it's confusing, but the thing is, I feel like that really fits. And the movie is just the graphic, visual representation of that soupification. And it's just like, it was really meant as kind of an FU to the fans that didn't like the finale. Like, even in the movie, like one of the final things you see is a bunch of flashing of images. And one of the things that flash on the screen is actual hate mail the creator got for the finale on TV. Like, he flashes it on screen during the finale of the movie. Like, just like, you guys wanted to know what happened. You didn't like my representation? Well, here you go. Here's all your favorite characters dying terribly. And I can appreciate that. I can.
If I recall, I got the plot of the movie up just to make sure I'm checking this, but if I recall correctly, the TV show never actually went into the Orange Goop. The Orange Goop was a big scene in the End of Evangelion movie with I always pronounce it wrong, Comsor Todd, that song playing in the background. You have that giant musical sequence and just everybody's getting gooped eyes. You see people, the last thing they see, they see the person they love, they want or whatever, and just boom, orange Fanta. That was the reason the original TV show was so stressful was because once Instrumentality was happening in the TV show, there was no crazy grand sequence. That's when we shifted to Shinji and his brain and what he was seeing in the sketches and the weird voiceovers. Yeah, that's what that was. But yeah, no, the Orange Goop is all End of Evangelion, the movie. And that was once again, that was still confusing for everybody to understand that. But I have ideas in my mind, but that's like the philosophy of Evangelion at that point.
I've always seen it as that final episode, that's what it's like once you get gooped. You're talking about every brain in the world as one mind. Yeah. That's what the goop is. When Ray comes along and goops everybody. But I loved just not knowing nothing about that. I loved just being dropped into that. It was confusing because I had to watch Eva at least 3 times before I got it, you know, I didn't get it. Like when the last episode of Eva dropped, it was very confusing. And I get that it was very confusing, but it wanted you to watch it more than once. Like it wanted you to put it together. And the movie's just kind of, all right, for those of you that couldn't put it together, here you go. Here's violence.
No, like I would 100% agree. It's like that it is true. Like compared to the rest of the show, that last episode of Shinji's inner monologue, where we get to see him essentially like rebuilding.
Congratulations!
Yeah, we get like, the congratulations, like, will we also get that slice of life moment where, like, Misato is like their really hot teacher and everybody's in the same class and it's like a freaking like basically like a Japanese sitcom. Like that
classic
one,
anime. Like it's more like an anime in that 5 minutes than it is for the entire series.
Oh, absolutely. But and I feel like that's probably why so many people had an issue with it, because it was such a departure from like what we had been having so far. With like, I mean, we had that whole moment with Asuka even before she attacked those. She got attacked by the I think it was 9. Basically before Zele shows up and like just murks everybody.
I forget which unit number that was.
I know that
you look up 1 hour photo starring Robin Williams and you'll find out which one it was. That's very important.
But like, I mean, like we already had like Asuka going through her thing where like, like how she had to basically fight that one angel that essentially like snooped through her brain and went through her memories, like like it was like extremely intrusive.
Oh, that was a TV episode when the thing invaded her mind.
That did happen.
That was a TV episode.
But that happened in the show for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying those were such intense episodes, but then to suddenly go from such intensity to this extremely abstract episode was probably jarring for a lot of fans, which is probably why they were like, we need to actually see what's going on. And then they actually see what's going on. They're like, by the way, just so you know, those flashes, one of the letters straight up says, Ano, I will kill you, Ano. It straight up says like big ass letters. It says, I will kill you, Ano.
There's a lot of wild stuff thrown out during that entire sequence. And
the breakup montage, like that movie like hits you with every line you've ever heard being broken up with at once in that final finale. And just like, hey, if you've ever been hurt, let's make sure we cover that. Like just make it sure.
But I think that's a good thing about it though, because like, so here's the thing about Shinji. Shinji at that point in time, he is a representation of the human experience more so than any other character in the show. And at that point, Shinji becomes a projection of everybody's single insecurity. Shinji has nearly every single insecurity, every single mental illness in the book. And that makes him at that moment relatable to everyone. So we're watching this entire sequence and like the whole idea of all these like negative things being thrown at him is a reminder that being human causes pain. Being human, no matter how hard you try, is going to involve some level of pain. There was the hedgehog's dilemma in the previous or in the series where he's just like, I don't get close to people. And they're like, oh yeah, he doesn't get close to people because like hedgehogs, they hurt each other. So they emphasize that even more. And then that's where Shinji is given the predicament where he's like, all right, if you don't want things to hurt anymore, you can just pull the plug on this. We can all just become one giant mass thing because there's no problems. There's no thoughts, there's no feelings, there's no vibes, there's nothing when we return to the primordial ooze. We just exist, we just vibe. So like that's the predicament presented to him. And it's like a question to us as humans, like, yo, do we really want that all-encompassing primordial soup of life? Or do we want to deal with the pain and struggles of life, even though there are good things that come out of it? That's Shinji's entire, like, out of all the series, that's what everything boils down to. That's why the series had like really dark moments, really crazy moments, because at that point, Shinji went through all of that. And then this is what End of Evangelion is. This is like the weight of the world is on this boy's shoulders. And it's either he deletes all of us or he saves all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's either like you're either that's such a
as much as I would love to say yes, he is a human experience. Does the human experience have to start our movie by making squid ink in his hands? With
so, oh my god, that's such a terrible.
God, are we gonna talk about it?
In his hands? Why does we have to watch that?
There's
it's almost like Mono said. You know that beloved character.
Up, okay, like all right, like Shinji, like the human experience is being a little effed up. That is Shinji's like whole point of being. Like there is no being human without being effed up if Shinji is, representing us.
That scene is
as a
definitely
whole.
like looking back on it, even Ano said it's like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have drawn that. That shouldn't have happened. And his defense and a lot of fans' defenses, there's like so many weird things behind it. But at the end of the day, Asuka always called Shinji pathetic. Asuka always made Shinji feel worthless. And at that very moment, he just like he gave into that. He's like, "Yep, I'm pathetic." Because that's
And
I fucking hate looking back at that scene. When I watch it, I just cringe. But it's like that's why, like at the end, once he's done with the act, he just sits there and he's like, "I'm pathetic," because he's like accepting like it could have been done differently. It could have been done in so many other different ways. But I get it. It's the night.
That was
I get
part
it
of
was,
the
it was,
creators.
it was the late
having to
90s. There
make
was
the
not
movie.
as much stuff. So it's like, we gotta boil down into it too. The reason why as a kid, I was just like, whoa, what is this? But as an adult, the reason why it makes me uncomfortable is like, those are two kids. Those are two children. And like when you watch the rebuilds, they do such a good job of cutting out a lot of that weird sexualization stuff and kind of just being like, all right, these are kids.
It was not in it
going through shit. Yeah. But it's like when you watch that movie and you watch that scene, you're just like, all right, Shinji did this.
It's always helped me along knowing that the movies were kind of made with in a prodding sense. Like those movies were not made because the creator wanted to make those movies. There were people that wanted an explanation and demanded it so hard that just like it was like, you want something? Here's Shinji jacking off. Like, you want it? You got it. You think all right, you think you want to know? Then I'll tell you.
I think it's a mixture of shock value
and Shinji jacking off. Like it was very, very much like kind of like resentful. There was a resentful nature in the original like 97 showing of the movie. And it comes through, I think.
No
like
pun
those
intended,
three
right?
like support characters like throughout the series, like I don't know their names. They wear brown jumpsuits and help the Avas in the control room that get shot to death in the movie. Like
I know who you're talking about.
Like I hope you didn't give a shit about those people because you're gonna watch them die like dogs. Like it was very much a big fu to like people who couldn't comprehend the complex nature of the finale. Like
I think though the problem is by saying that the movie is a big fu, it's sort of like it gives it this like because it's like all of us are in agreement. It's like, oh yeah, I'm 5-star, you're 5 stars, Kenji's 4 stars. So it's not a bad movie. And it's like the more we try to sit there and be like, yeah, it was them shitting on Ava, it was Ano saying fuck you. Ano actually was trying to make something. He had a budget and he was just like, all right, I get to do this again. The big fu of the movie itself was the fact that even though he gave us this ending that technically was more visual, more descriptive, makes more sense, it still doesn't make sense because at the end of it, Shinji escapes. It's Shinji and Asuka hanging out on the beach. The first thing Shinji does is chokes Asuka. She doesn't die, but like that's his first reaction after facing all of his demons, after being like, no, I do want to exist. I do want people to be things. I don't want us to go back to nothing. The first thing he does is choke Asuka out. And you kind of just sit there, you're like, wait, so he technically saved humanity, but we're looking at this like this weird deformed version of Earth now with like the head of like Rey half like decomposing, Shinji choking Asuka, and them just like sitting there. That was the big fu. That was Ano going, this is still what I wanted it to be. The only difference is instead of storyboards, instead of sketches, instead of watercolor paintings, instead of any of that, I'm giving you this great high quality detailed version of what I would have done if I actually had the money. So it's like, it still pissed people off because it was great. It was good. It had all sorts of amazing moments, but it still led to the same place, which was not making sense and being very, very philosophical. Very like, oh, you have to interpret it in your own mind and it's wherever you make it.
But it like yes, but like I do feel like it does. Like we're talking about the end. It all depends on whether or not you consider the events of that last weird hypothetical mind episode in the movie first or second. Because personally, I take the movie as what it's like being Asuka and Shinji before they get gooped, before they get inducted into instrumentality. If they're the last two people left, all that's left is goo, and if you touch it, you will also be goo. And like that, again, that's really up to like viewer interpretation, because you could also see that scene of Kenji choking Asuka as after
Kenji, why'd you choke Asuka?
Yeah, like you could see it as like
Why'd you do it, Kenji?
He doesn't conform to the instrumentality, and he just wants to choke Asuka to death. Like, and he's just fucked. But it really depends on how you want to see it, because there's no real clear clarification on whether that happens before or after. Although, if you like that little like slice of sweetness from that last episode, there's a manga that's called Angelic Days. It picks up right where that like fantasy version of Eva takes off. Like they're just kids in a school, and they're wacky normal school.
Yeah, it was a spin-off manga.
Yeah.
Here's a cool fact about Evangelion, and it was thanks to Kenji that I ended up Kenji, I think there were different things that he knew, and he was just like, the manga was one cycle, Shinji fucked up. The TV shows and the final movie was another cycle, and Shinji fucked up. And I remember hearing Kenji talk about this, like, damn, that's an interesting way to look at it, interesting perspective.
Yeah.
And then the rebuild movies came out, and the very first one and a majority of the second one all follow very on point active thing or actions that happen in the TV show. It isn't until near the end of the second one and the third and fourth one that things look different, things change. But a lot of it is literally like Kaoru didn't really get a whole lot. He was such a loved character, but he didn't really get a whole lot. The third movie in the rebuild series is completely dedicated to him. He has more presence and everything like that. And the thing is, the rebuild series is that continuation now. You have that End of Evangelion, whatever happens, and then you go into the rebuild movies. And the reason why the rebuild movies are the true End of Evangelion is because each cycle past, there's a sequence in the final movie, 3.0, 1.0, where Shinji's sitting talking to Rei in front of a projector screen. And it's literally the entire series, the TV show, and the End of Evangelion movie. It's literally all of it playing in fast forward, and then it ends on the congratulations screen. And that's when Shinji and Rei make the wish for a world of no more Evangelions. And that's what happens. And they all get to go live a normal life and do a normal thing and be actual people. And it's just like the end of it. So the thing is, like, it's all a sequence. So when you watch that movie, now that the rebuild movies are out, you go look back at that sequence, you're like, oh shit, so Shinji fucked it up, and Shinji's gonna have to try it again. And it's like the icing on the cake is, and this is what Kenji told me, in the manga, Kaoru hates Shinji with a passion. And then in the TV show, all of a sudden, when he sees Shinji, he starts to really like him. He starts to understand what it's like to be a human. And then in the rebuild movies, there's a sequence where Kaoru shows up again, and he's like, I'm looking forward to meeting you again, Shinji. And it's like everything keeps looping, everything keeps going, everything is technically connected in this long sequence. And that's not necessarily what it was going to be at the start, but once you look at everything and you see how he finished those final movies, it's just like, oh, a lot of this kind of makes sense now. I understand a lot of this. But being the devil's advocate too, is it shouldn't have taken 20 years and another 4 movies to truly explain the end of Evangelion.
You could have just made the show You could have just made the show.
I think it's better
you
than
made
I
the-
think it's better he did movies than making shows, because shows have schedules, shows have limited budgets, shows have to come out at specific times. When you make a
Yeah.
movie, like the man took his sweet ass time making these movies. The first
I was
one
about to
came
say,
out
he took his
in like
sweet ass
2000
time.
and like 2006 or something, and the final one came out last year in 2021.
I haven't.
That man
been
took
back.
that
I
many
gotta be honest.
years to finish it
I-
again.
I have not seen like any of the new Ava.
You should.
Like everything
should,
I've
yeah.
seen from Ava is easily from 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like I'm fine with that. Like, I feel like that. I feel like
you should give it a
saw
chance.
Enough.
You should give it a chance, because I made my I feel bad saying I made my best friend. She was willing to do it. We watched all of the original Evangelion. We watched the 2 ending movies. We watched the entire Rebuild series together, and like
Lord.
she loved that. She's like, holy shit, like this was. She's like, it's the anime was really fucking weird, but I kind of vibe with it. The ending movie, really fucking weird, but I kind of vibe with it. And then she's like, but then these last 4 movies, she's like, holy shit, like I'm glad I watched the TV show, because all of this is still like it all intersects. It's really weird. It's the Evangelion Verse. Welcome to the Evangelion Verse.
Yeah.
Except
Everything's just an
Shinji,
extent- everything's
except
just
manga
extension of
Shinji,
multiple
anime
movies.
Shinji, and Rebuild Shinji don't point at each other like that.
No,
would've been- that would've been such
I
a
don't
great
know
scene.
if they do or don't.
They don't.
Okay,
They don't.
okay,
That would have
that's
been like
fine.
an iconic moment. Somebody should go make that meme right now. Do it. Just
Manga
get the
Shinji,
the black and white
Shinji.
manga Shinji, the 90s Shinji, and then the 2021 Shinji, and just
And
have
all of
pointing
them
at each
can
other.
like just sort of tell each other what a piece of shit they are. And then the person who's the least amount of a piece of shit by description of oneself can be the protagonist of the final version.
that would be be the
Yeah.
final Shinji. That's
I was
the boy right there.
I was reading up on like, okay, I didn't want to like jump in with stuff that I didn't necessarily know, but I remember from watching the like End of Ava with the commentary, the actors talk about having to get through it because of what a tragic downer ordeal it is to show up every day and record that movie like 5 times a day until it is perfect. Like I remember like the actor who played, there's a really famous scene in the movie where Gendo is reaching into Rei, and there's a famous blooper of his that goes like, I know my car keys are in here somewhere. Like they really had to upswing it for it to not just be a dismal day of work. And Spike Spencer, they talk about him and how much he dislikes the character Shinji. But I guess if you ask Spike Spencer now, like how do you feel about Shinji? He'll tell you he loves Shinji because of the opportunities that being Shinji has allotted him since. But it's like apparently at the time he hated being Shinji, because being Shinji is a lot of work. Apparently it is, relentless on your psyche.
That boy was whiny.
Actually, I would actually love this is actually a perfect segue. This is actually a perfect segue to talk about the cast. Actually, we got Spike Spencer, doing his amazing job as Shinji, and I will personally say I'm usually one of those people that is a big I'm a huge diehard when it comes to you have to watch it in the original dub. I don't give a shit. You need to read the subtitles. I don't care. You need to pay attention. You shouldn't be texting when you're watching anime anyways. But with that being said, though, I actually really, really dig the American cast voice actors. Like even the original even the with Spike Spencer with as grating as he was being the character, being Shinji, I felt he did an amazing great job.
It's still one of the better dubs of the 90s. That was a crazy era of anime where you either had things that were just like, wow, this is cringe as fuck, or you had things that's like, wow, Cowboy Bebop, this is like peak anime. Like I had a friend who's strictly they're just like you, Kenji, like you gotta watch the original one. Everything she's watched has been the original with subtitles. But when I told her I watched Cowboy Bebop with subtitles, she got so mad at me. She's like, that's the one exception. You gotta watch it in English. You don't understand. It's really good. And like that's how I feel about Evangelion as well. It's one of those like 90s where it's like, you gotta watch it in English. Trust me, man. Like this is good. This is peak, like the delivery of the emotions, the feelings, the vibes behind it. Like this is good. You're gonna like it. And I'm going to bring myself just so I can get round number 5 in, but I want to watch the Japanese dubs of all of it again. But like English dub is great. Like the voice actress who did Rey was just like, Rey was lifeless, but at the same time, there were a few moments in the series as well in the movies where she did have life, and she did such a good job of turning it on. Like you have Rey, who's just the lifeless husk, one of the many clones of her. And then you have the entire thing that happens in the TV show where she starts to feel alive. She starts to like Shinji. She starts to like smiling, all this crap. Then she dies. Then a clone comes back and you have her go mute again. And then once you go to the movie, that's like another clone of Rey, but she's still doing that thing where she's like I think the movie, like I think we're all going to end up doing this tonight because the original ending, the last episodes, all that kind of meshed together. But I think the movie has the sequence where she's just like talking to herself, and it's that giant monologue, and you see the like rays multiplying everything, and she's just like, who am I? You know, what am I? What does it mean to exist? Just going through all of that. And I was like, this is really good. Like I'm feeling the existential dread that Rey is going through right now, questioning life and her reality, especially for the fact that she's the test tube baby that came out of a clone that is technically a replica of one of the first angels ever, Lilith. So she's like, damn, how I be, what I be, how I do, what is this? Like that. I love that whole thing. Like it was really, really good. Like I say, Asuka was amazing. The voice actress behind her, like I think she was the one constant where like she did a good job of having range. She was bratty. She had her moments where she was serious. She had her moments where she showed sadness. Like poor Spike Spencer. I hate to like, beat him down a little, but I think he was more a little bit at the bottom of the barrel for the voice actors on movies because Shinji, it wasn't his fault, but because he just made Shinji so whiny. But then Asuka, on the other hand, was like, you have Shinji's voice actor, you have Rey's voice actor, and then you have Asuka's, and then you have Masato's, because Masato was amazing. But anyways, you have Asuka, and she has so much range, especially because at the start of the movie, she's practically in a coma, sitting in a hospital bed. Then all of a sudden, like things start to go down, the angels attack, and she snaps back. She's ready to fight again. And during that entire fight, like her screams are like war cries, and she's just flinging the spear around, just going like as hard as she can. And like when she starts to win and she knocks everything down, you feel that like victory in her. She's like, I did it. I didn't need anybody's help. I was able to do it on my own. And then when they all come back to life, you hear that dread in her where she's just like, yo, what the hell? And then she just gets the spear in the eye. And that scream is like one of those like iconic, like you have horror movies and stuff like that where there's like, yeah, these are iconic screams. That's the iconic scream of anime, just her holding her eye inside the Ava unit as it just gets stabbed in. And like, man, she did a great job. Like the 3 kids are always the most important focus on the series, and all 3 of those voice actors in 97 really, really delivered on that experience.
Absolutely.
We had Amanda Wynn Lee as Rey Ayanami, and we had Tiffany Grant as Asuka, and of course we have Shinji, Spike Spencer, Shinji.
Everybody remembers his name, Spike Spencer.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like, it's as shitty as this sounds. I will say that like the voice actors that are on here, other than Spike Spencer, I actually really don't. Maybe Tristan McAvoy, who does the voice of Gendo. But other than him, I actually don't recognize any of these names on here. Even the Netflix ones, I don't recognize any of these names. Yeah. Like, I mean, maybe Brett Weaver, who did the voice of Toji, he's done a few things. I recognize him. But, like, honestly, like a lot of these voice actors, I feel like I haven't really seen a whole lot of.
They got a fresh cast, a fresh group of people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like you got to think about anime.
Not even like a fresh group of people, but like eventually, a lot of these people who were like doing voice acting and like for back then, like eventually you know, like you still see them, you know, doing other anime and stuff. So, but you know, like eventually, especially when you do iconic characters such as these, you'd think they'd end up having like a much a bigger following later on in life. But like, it's so surprising. I don't recognize any of these voice actors.
It might have had something. It might have had something to do with like the fall of ADV. Like ADV kind of like collapsed.
There was that whole
shortly
license
after
issues
it
too
was-
afterwards.
the ADV kind of like went down in like what 2004, 2005, like somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Like, which it was crazy because at the time they were trying to pitch the live action Ava movie, in which like I know
Peter Jackson was gonna do it.
Yeah,
There's concept art out there. It's ridiculous that was
the
almost gonna
first
happen.
person who talks on their pitch reel is Robin Williams. Robin Williams was a
know that.
huge Ava fan.
I know that. Yeah, I know about
and,
that.
and it's just like I only know that because of that stupid one scene from
1 hour photo.
what was it, 60-minute photo, like that
60
movie
minute
where
photo,
he's
yeah.
like a photo developer who goes crazy and stalks a family. There's like a scene where the things that kill Asuka, like the kid picks up an action figure of it.
Yeah, and he's like, "That's a here."
Oh, Evangelion.
Yeah, the kid's just like, "It's one of the good guys."
Evangelion.
Yeah, he says the weird way. I don't know why people do that. I don't know why people do that. It bothers me so much.
I looked up a bunch about this scene earlier. I thought it was like urban legend is Robin Williams had that scene put in the movie because he's a big Ava fan, but it was just the director saw this figure and he thought like its white angel physique fit the scene in the movie well, and that's why it was in there. It would just be a complete coincidence that Robin Williams is a huge nerd. Like that, like, oh, that's, I know who that is. It was, so it's one of those things that just, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, why is Ava being referenced in this shitty horror movie? Like, it's a very random reference that just like,
it's infamous now.
Yeah.
It's all over. It's like one of the biggest memes out there. Like I love that sequence. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the voice acting, that was good.
It's absolutely phenomenal work. I mean, honestly, and obviously, credit where credit is due to the original Japanese cast as well. Like it's as much as we love the American cast. You can't. They wouldn't even be here if it weren't for these other guys. Okay, these other guys were here first, and then they did some cool stuff. They sounded really cool. And then like other guys showed up and tried to sound cool too.
It just sounds too like it should be happening. Like I've watched it in the original Japanese, and it's just everything just sounds like it should sound, and so it doesn't like catch you. Like it takes overacting of Americans to really like the over the top nature of because everything just kind of sounds right in the original Japanese. In English, it's like, you all right? Is everybody here all right? No one's all right? Okay.
And first of all, I will say the difference between these dubs, one of the biggest glaring ones that happened, and Bryan and I almost did a double take, and we almost couldn't watch the rest of the movie for a second when we first heard it because we couldn't stop yelling at the fucking screen, which was one of the changes that they made was they changed they made the story a lot easier to understand in the dub. There's nothing like up for interpretation. It's like, no. This is what's happening. No, there's no metaphors in my dialogue. But the other thing that they also did was they switched the name from the Spear of Longinus to Longinus.
Yeah, I got that was a little distracting for me for obvious reasons. The Lance of Longinus going to the Lance of Longinus. I maybe it's childish of me to absolutely hone in on that detail, but I do.
There were some weird dialogue changes. Like the pronounce of Sele, the pronounce of nerve.
Oh
They changed it
yeah.
to
Nerf,
Yeah.
Nerf now, yeah.
Yeah. Instead of the
Delay or
first
Sele,
child,
yeah.
second child, they call them the first children, the second children, the third children. I was like, wait, children is plural. Hold on, what?
Maybe
I
so.
mean, in their defense, that's because in the Japanese version, they are called the first children, second children, third children, fourth children.
Okay,
We're
so
at a
they
point
decided
where
to do the like
yeah.
literal representation
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
We're at a point where in the series where it's like, look, are you really worried about this right now? Like, I feel like when this like, are you really concerned about this? There's some dead kids over there. You really super fucking concerned? Like,
You really want to
like,
focus on this? Yeah.
we never really, I feel like it's funny because we never really see like the angels come, the angels destroy a bunch of stuff. But like I feel like everybody is so I forget sometimes that when you watch Ava, you're looking at the second apocalypse that people are dealing with weekly. So it's like everybody is like ready. Like there are no casualties when the giant monsters come because it's like, yeah, we know. Yeah, giant monster, sure. Well, the entire city's we're all gonna go underground
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the city's gonna sink in. That's fine. We're ready for this. Like, who cares? When are you gonna knock down a building? Like, we already went through one apocalypse. Who gives a shit? Like, they're
You gotta
so
be
ready
prepared. At that
for
point,
the
like
world
they've
to be
gone.
over again.
Yeah, they're like at that point, it's just you've had the first impact, you've seen the like damage that's been done through it. So it makes sense for them to be technologically prepared for all of that shit. Like it's just they gotta be. That's how it's apocalypse now it's no longer like a biblical thing. It's no longer this like big philosophical thing anymore. It's just the weather. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
so we got an angel attack today. Instead of living above ground, we're gonna live down ground today. It's all good. Just it's a slight change down here. We'll hang out down here and everything will be easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Oh, an angel. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be fucking so late to get home today. Jesus. How long do I gotta wait
Yeah.
down here?
Oh, they shut down.
Are they
I'm
getting
not
in the
telling you this,
fucking
honey, they shut down all
robot?
the
Because
trains.
I want to go home tonight. Like, if that would be great if they could kill the angel by like soon. Like,
I feel like an angel attacking New Tokyo is
Neo
kind of like
Tokyo.
that scene. It's kind of like that scene in the Family Guy TV show when Tom Tucker is trying to eat his dinner in the bathroom, and then someone just sits on the toilet, and he goes, "How long are you going to be? I'm very hungry."
Shit.
It's like that's essentially what's been happening with the. I will say it is funny to think about the fact it's like essentially like the big island of Japan, the islands of Japan has now had to like conglomerate down to like what's this? I'm assuming it's like an artificial island based on the fact that we can like go underground into this thing.
Sure, no one seems to give a shit. You never see another human being. All you ever hear is apparently the city's entirely inhabited by like 7 cicadas. Like, and that's it. like the entire population of New Tokyo is like 4 cicadas, and the children that get in their parents to fight, robots.
Well, you gotta think about it too. Like humanity as a whole is they definitely have a lot less numbers because the first impact when it came about, it made a lot of the earth uninhabitable at that point. Like the ocean's red. It's like it's hot every day. There is no winter. It feels it feels like something that might actually happen one of these days. But
I'm
like
pretty
there's
sure
no
the
winter.
angels punched away the ozone layer. That's why it's so hot. Like I think like the angels coming, just like when that happened, no more ozone layer. Like
at this point, I would take angels and Evangelions for what's going on. Like we've had a pandemic.
At least we can do something about the angels.
At this point, it's like that scene in like a Cabin in the Woods where it goes, "Who had it? Who called it? Who called it?"
I love that Seal. Is it Sele or Seal? Like, how are you supposed to say?
Well, in the in Japanese,
I can
it's
never remember the
pronounced
right
Sele.
way anymore
Yeah.
because I've watched all of the dubs back to back to back. So I'm just like, which one's the right one now?
I love that Nerve is basically the Army National Guard of soldiers. Like, no one in Nerve knows how to shoot a gun. Like, it's not the government. They're literally just people who come in on the weekends to look at monitors for scheduled angel attacks.
Well,
Like,
the thing about Nerve and Nerve HQ is that's the home base. Like those people, their whole purpose is to make sure the Avas run smoothly, is to make sure everything is maintained properly, that the angels don't reach central dogma. It's a lot of like, it's just computers and monitors and observing tech. Like that's not Nerve's responsibility. Nerve's responsibility is not to be readily armed to face other threats. Nerve's only sole responsibility is to make sure the Evas are functional, to make sure the Avas stop the angels, and to make sure the angels don't reach central dogma. Like everything else makes zero sense for them to have training in. Because remember, the only time they get attacked is in the End of Evangelion. The government at that point knows that they're not protected, so that's why they take advantage of that fact.
Oh, yeah,
Before they were like,
they even make that dialogue about the fact that it's like they're like, oh yeah, they cut our defense budget.
Yeah.
So like
the government?
How do you think the Avas break in like every episode? Shinji's Ava loses an arm, Asuka's Ava like gets collided. All of this damage happens constantly. Then you have the one episode too where they take all the fucking power in Tokyo to channel into that like sniper rifle. Like they have to cut corners in budget to maintain all of that. Like it's just like, all right, it's Wednesday. The Ava just broke on Sunday, and we've got to repair it again by Friday. Like, all right, you know what? Like, you know that survival training we were giving y'all, you know, like each one of you gets to learn how to use a gun, learns how to use CPR, learns how to do this. We're gonna have to cut that. The giant robots are
a human arm the size of a city block.
Yeah, we're gonna have to cut that program right there. We need to fund this.
None of you are gonna know how to shoot people. Yeah. And plus, like, why in the world would this? Okay, it seems like their funding comes from the government. Why would the government pay them to know how to, like, the government's planning for this to go bad one day. Like, the government knows that one day they're going to have to kill everybody in there and bury this underground forever.
So a lot of, it's hard to pick up. You kind of understand it better. I always hate saying this. You kind of understand it better in the rebuilds. End of Evangelion tries to explain it. But you kind of get the vibe, like it's always been like this in all of Evangelion. Gendo is doing stuff behind Nerve and Sele's back because he has his own plan on how he wants all of this to unfold. The reason being is his wife died. He hates life without his wife. He is literally doing all of this in the hopes that, you know, reuniting into the primordial ooze gets him back to his lover and feeling warm and fuzzy and all that shit. So Gendo's trying to force it to happen that way, whereas Sele is trying to have it happen in another way. And the thing is, all of these people are playing 4D chess. Gendo's making his moves, trying to counter things. Sele is making their moves. So Nerve being understaffed and not actually having any sort of defense is done on purpose. Like during that sequence when the army raises in, that's because like Nerve is important to the government because they're the only people that have the technology and resources to stop the angels. When you see every episode when the army tries to resist them, like, all right, we're going to drop the N2 mines, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Nothing happens. They're completely useless. So they are going to protect Nerve. But at the end of Evangelion, when everything shit starts to hit the fan, Sele's word becomes, you know, the most powerful because Gendo's technically not the one in charge. So when he tells the government, you need to kill everyone in there, they're going to do it at this point. Like, all right, well, he's pays our paycheck. This is it. Like, there's a lot of strings being pulled in the movie, and you see a lot of them start to unfurl as you watch the End of Evangelion. And that's one of the biggest strings right there. Like, they were purposely set up. So at that point, if any military intervention was needed to kill every single person in there, they're defenseless. Another reason being is if you send people in with guns to kill everyone in there, all you have to do is push the right buttons and that lets the angel in. So it's like, it's this multi-layered game. So it's like either way you cut the cake right there, they're trying to stop the angels from attacking, even though once the final angel shows up, it's going to bring forth the third impact. So everybody has an insurance plan right there. If the angels are about to reach central dogma, Nerve has a switch to blow Nerve up. If Saleh's plan, though, they want the angels to eventually reach central dogma. So their plan is, okay, if they somehow are going to stop this, we just send the military in to kill them. It's this weird multi-layered thing that's happening. And it's
never
just like,
knew what
yeah.
they wanted. I
Yeah.
never knew
Yeah.
what's it, because like, okay, so Nerve is meant to stop the angels. And
yeah,
yeah,
Nerve's
everybody's
entire
seeing Duke,
purpose
and
is to
Saleh's
stop
like,
the angels.
finally,
Yes.
our plan
Yep.
is going exactly according
Yep.
to plan.
Dude,
I feel
literally.
like we've been fighting against this plan the whole time. Nope, we haven't.
Yep. And
This has been the plan.
The thing that's great about it is Gendo wants it, and he wants to bring about it his way because he believes it's what's going to bring his wife back or bring him back to his wife. Saleh wants it to happen because they believe humanity is a blight. They think humanity is a curse. They think humans are disgusting creatures, and the only right thing to do would to be to return all of us to the primordial ooze so the world can just vibe and do whatever the fuck it wants.
Sure,
So,
makes
like,
a lot of
everybody
sense.
has their motives.
That's
behind
just
it.
like Elon Musk, like, and like fucking like the members of Saleh. Who are they're just a bunch of rectangles. It's just Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, like just like yes, we must all become stew, and then we will all be one.
And every now and then Bill Gates goes, "Hey, so I was thinking, shut the fuck up, Phil."
Yeah, see, I've watched the series. I watched it once when I was a kid, then I watched it twice back to back because I watched it with my friends. So I've seen the movie so many times, and it's just, the movie is good because it really starts to explain the finer details of a lot of the things that have been going on. Like, you find out in the movie that Gendo slept with God, is it Retsuko is the name of
Ritsuko.
Ritsuko, yeah. Retsuko's from like you find out, that like
Gendo's
you find
treatment
out
of Ritsuko is the worst. Like,
and then you
find
out
along
she
to kill the world.
Yeah, well, like, not just that, like her mom, like, you have that fucking moment, it still sends shivers down my spine whenever I see it. You have Ray show up and she's just like a kid and she's just toying, and then I think she drops something, and then, you know, her mom tries to be like, oh, let me help you that, and she straight up tells her, she's like, I don't need help from an old hag.
Yeah, I don't need.
And she's just like, excuse me, what? And she's like, yeah, my dad said that you're an old hag and you're useless and that. And she just strangles her to death. And then she kills herself. She just, it's freaking crazy. And you see why Ritsuko, right? Not Retsuko, Ritsuko, R-I. Ritsuko, yeah. You see Ritsuko, why she has so much hate towards Gendo now. Now you're starting to see a lot of these layers. You didn't see them in the original episodes, but every little thing happening right here is starting to unfold these layers. And when you see that flashback into history, all of a sudden you start to learn about Ray now. You see that there was a child Ray and that Ray died. And there's a whole fish tank with a bunch of Ray bodies that can just be projected into and create like another little thing that happens. You start to, I always get grainy on some of the details. You also learn more about the computer system, the Magi, and how each single one was modeled after three different aspects of Ritsuko's mom. Like it's her mind as her as a lover, a mother, and a scientist.
Yeah.
And the three of them are supposed to keep each other in check.
And all three of them still love Gendo.
Yeah.
So no matter who she is, her decision making is terrible.
Yeah, it's always going towards what Gendo would want, and it's just
gross.
It's all of these layers and all of these little things that you get to see because they expanded upon it. So it's like, you know, at the beginning, some of it's just like we're saying like, oh man, it's like shit on fans, but then all of these little things that I bring up are little details that you'd never catch on to in the original sequence. Like you get to see Masato try and like stand up for everyone And you have that sequence where she gets killed at the end, which I think is much better than her just vanishing. But like, you have that sequence, she gets killed, and it was all because she knew the importance of Shinji. She knew that the only way the world had a second chance, the only way this mess could have gotten fixed, is if Shinji makes it down there and gets into that robot. So she literally makes that sacrifice. Whereas in the TV show ending, you don't have any of that. You just, Misato's character just vanishes into thin air. So you get character development. You get to see these things that started to unfold in the series that you never saw capitalized. You find out that I hate how I forget people's names, but you find out that one of the girls working with the three behind the desk at all the times, she was in love with Risco, because that's the last person she sees embrace her before that. And when you rewatch the series, all of a sudden you start to notice it more. You're like, oh yeah, she is really fond of her. She is trying to always do favors for her and do things, which you wouldn't have caught in the TV show ending.
No, yeah,
there's a lot of little story beats.
Yeah, like
there's a lot of little story beats you see in there.
Episodes back to back to catch it, or the movie, like for sure.
So the ending does a good job catching a lot of those things and actually fleshing them out. And it's just the anger always boils down to, I don't understand what happened after Orange Fanta. I don't get why Shinji is stuck on this beach. That's what people always get mad about, because it's better than the TV show ending. It makes more sense than the TV show ending, but it still doesn't make sense.
I don't know. Like, I've always interpreted them as these are the same events from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Like, the show version is from inside of the goo, and the movie version is from outside of the goo.
The show's not from inside the goo. The show is from Shinji's mind. But right before the goo happens,
are now one mind. Like, in the show, we've all been merged in Instrumentality into this one mind.
That's happening. Yeah, that's unfolding as Shinji. So it's a weird sequence of events, because I've seen, a lot of it is still fresh on my mind, and they play sort of parallel to each other. But you see the sequence where Shinji gets hoisted at, like, there's so many damn biblical references in it. It's ridiculous. But you see the Eva get hoisted up like a cross. Shinji's trapped inside of the Eva, which is the whole philosophy of Christ being nailed on the cross. He makes the sacrifice. Shinji is now the one being nailed on the cross, makes sacrifice. So when they go into his mind, all of that stuff that's happening in the TV shows is very conceptual. That's what he's seeing within his mind going on right now. The goo is starting to happen, but everything that he's dealing with, because that's why too, when you have that conversation, who are the three people talking to him through that entire time? Asuka, Rei, and Misato. The world as a whole hasn't been molded yet. The three people he's talking to are the three most influential people that are in his life, the people that he is worried about judging him, of disappointing with him.
From that perspective, though, they said, like, they're like, as long as you exist, a representation of you exists in the minds of everybody who knows you. You never go away as long as somebody has a representation of you in your mind. And Instrumentality is all of us becoming not just ourselves, but we are now not only ourselves, but every version in every head that there's an interpretation of us at the same time. So like, we are not just ourselves anymore in Instrumentality. We are also everybody's interpretation of that self, like, at once.
A lot of this point is always the part that really opens up awesome conversations, especially in regards to philosophy and, you know, the exact ideas with Evangelion, with life. So the entire theme that they're trying to say to Shinji isn't that you still exist as long as somebody else has a memory of you. The whole idea behind all of those things happening is there's a different version of you to everyone that you see. There's a different version of Shinji to Misato.
As real as the you in your own mind.
Yeah.
Like, every interpretation of you is just as real as the one that you're considering to be.
Yeah, every people's. But the thing is, like, that has nothing to do with the primordial goop and everything. That's not, that entire sequence isn't the greater consciousness coming together from the primordial ooze. While Shinji is having that conversation with, once again, this is it's always wild to talk about this, because it's very, this all boiled down to interpretation. But this is a monologue with Shinji, with himself. These are all the things that he's learned. Each representation of Asuka, Misato, and Rei are things that he's learning, things that he's trying to understand, things that he's trying to comprehend to it. So this is how his mind is able to help him process a lot of what's going on. Because if you just see Shinji talking to Shinji, it's weird. Because once again, there's a scene in the train where Shinji is talking to the child version of himself. He's thinking about things that he's done as a kid. He's thinking about things that were reflective of him through Asuka, through Rei, through Masato. And it's up to him to essentially decide at that point what he wants to do with humanity. That's not the greater consciousness of everybody wielding talking to him. That's his own inner monologue and that's him deciding amongst himself what to do, which is either push the button on the left that turns everyone into Fansa, or push the button on the right that
That's
really
right.
him talking to himself. Yeah.
Yeah, that really paused it. A really dramatic
What
moment.
happened? Did
Just
I
like
get cut out?
like
Oh
Yeah,
no,
it's like
did I get cut out?
you cut out right when it was like, and it's like you have your button on the left that makes everybody go to Orange Fanta, and then you have the button on the right,
and then you stopped. Yeah,
That's
you
good.
stopped.
If you
We're
hit the
like,
button on the right, it
What is the
stops.
right
It
button?
stops everything. It stops the ride. Man, no, you hit the button on the right, and it's Shinji's opportunity to save humanity and try and give everybody a second start. Because once again, when you go back to it too, and there's still no clear definition of what happens after that, technically everybody still kind of turned into Orange Fanta and is gone. Technically, Shinji and Oscar are the only two left there. And it's that whole, once again, there's so many crazy biblical references in it. That's Adam and Eve. That's the start of everything all over again. It's the end. The movie's wild. There's so many different ways to interpret every single one of those sequences, but without it, it wouldn't. The conversation about Evangelion gets better when you have that movie. Because if you just have the TV show ending, it's just, all right, there's watercolor
It's just
works,
a bunch of angry
there's
people at that
sketches, there's reused frames, there's just Shinji. But when you have the movie, The End of Evangelion, you're like, okay, there's all these other characters as well experiencing their own important moments.
Their own
because
apocalypse.
it's not just Shinji. Yeah, it's not just Shinji.
The apocalypse
Shinji,
happens to
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah,
not
Shinji's
just
important,
Shinji.
but yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's it right there. Yeah, it's not just Shinji. So yeah.
Personally,
Well-
I think the show's ending, I think it was perfect. Like, I really loved the left up to interpretation apocalypse. I did. Like, it really left you to just like, oh shit, the world ended and we didn't even see it. Like, fuck, everybody's dead, but why? I don't know. I'll have to fucking use my imagination. That was like what the point was, but it's like, I don't like the movie's version of the ending as much, just because I feel like it takes too much of a dominant hand on spelling it out exactly what happened. Like, I really like it. It's just in a show like Ava that is about what? The creation of the universe, the survival of of mankind. Like, it's all very like I think it being open-ended is like, it makes the story rich. Like, I like that people don't know exactly what happened. Like, people not knowing exactly what happened, like, I love the conversations that can grow from that. Like, it's just, and I feel like the movie puts a pin in it. Like, you want to know what happened? Here's what happened.
Just remember that ending of the TV show only happened because the studio ran out of money.
I
People
know,
always keep
but,
forgetting
like,
that. It wasn't going to end like that. It only ended like that because the studio ran out of money.
It's still what happened in their universe. Their universe ran out of money, and so that's how it went. If we went out the same way, we wouldn't even know the difference. If our universe ran out of money, like tomorrow, like then we'd all be given like a really half-assed sort of apocalypse that we'd all have to take up to interpretation. Like, and I like that a lot.
Well, as we're talking about running out of money, we unfortunately are starting to run out of time. So I actually would love to wrap this all up with some final thoughts from you guys about the movie. Cristobal, what are your final thoughts about the End of Evangelion?
It's, if you've watched all the TV show, you have to watch the movie. And if you're gonna watch the rebuilds, you can watch them on their own. But I still highly recommend watching the series, especially the ending movie, just because it's good. It came out 97, we said. Yeah, it came out 97. It's been 25 years, we said, right at the start of this. Yeah, and it still holds up. It's still something it's still a piece of anime history that's definitely worth watching. It still holds up, and I love it. I love it. I love the interpretation. That's all I have left. I've said a bunch of other things. That's literally what it is. It's a great movie, and you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it.
Bryan, how about you?
Yeah, I guess like winding down, you know, I almost feel like of course I love the movie, like, but I definitely feel like I love the second movie and the series more than I love like the recap movie. Like, I feel like if you tried to just start from there, it just doesn't do it the amount of justice, like, as
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, I feel you can see this story two different ways. You can either see the movie or you can watch the series, and you get the same information, but it's just you really get to digest it in the series more than the movie.
So they made that movie for the sake of people, because there was a big gap between when the TV show came out and the movie came out. So they made that movie for like people that watched the thing, and they're like, all right, we're going to give you the entire series in a half an hour just to refresh your memory, because we know you probably forgot a lot of things.
Yeah.
And here's the end of Evangelion. Yeah.
Especially because back then, like, they didn't have like streaming services and stuff.
Yeah.
So like sort of like going to the video store and buying every
mine from Barnes and Noble online in '99, I think, is when I got my like both of them. But like now that we have a choice, I feel like maybe the first movie isn't necessarily necessary to see. Like, it's good, but it's like it's not better than watching the series and then jumping straight into the second movie. Like, that's just how I feel about it. Like, you could do both. Like, do both. Why the fuck not? Like, it's you know, yeah, it remains sort of, it's iconic and it's fucked up, but it's not as fucked up as a lot of stuff is. It's fucked up just enough, like, to like give you an existential crisis without scarring you for life. And it's like that balance comes so far and few and rarely. Like, it makes you think without hurting your mind. And that's, yeah, I love Ava, and I'd recommend it to anybody who, you know, watches anime. Like, yeah,
I definitely agree. Like, my personal take on it is like, first of all, I feel it's a series and movie that everyone has to see ultimately. Like, because first of all, you go into it, it presents itself, and it's been advertised as this mecha show, like Japanese giant robots fighting giant
theme parks and shit, right? Like,
it's just so surface level. It is so much more. It's so much deeper, and of course, the messages that end up coming from that because of that is so open to interpretation. I feel like it's so worth the watch. They do have a lot of heavy subject matter though. They bring up suicide, they bring up, like assault, there's like, things that aren't, heavy subject matters. But with that said though, it's not like they're using it just for the shock value. It's like these are actually inherently things that really do help build these characters and really make these characters who they are. It's not just like someone just being like, oh, and then we're putting in this thing. for shock value, it's nothing like that. It's like these characters are very grounded despite their extremely horrifying like backgrounds. But yes, I definitely think everyone should watch this show, watch the movie. It's on Netflix.
Yep.
Different dub, but it's still good.
Then watch the rebuilds on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
you have to watch the rebuilds right after, because it's the icing on the cake.
And if you can dig it up, do the Spike Spencer version. Just check it out. Check out the version that people were complaining about. I recommend it. Like,
definitely. Thank you guys. You know what? Thank you guys so much for joining us. First of all, before we go, I would actually love to know where can our viewers find you guys on the social medias? Bryan, where can we find you on the social?
You can find me on IG or TikTok under Wayward Scientist, spelled Wayward Scientist. I do a little thing, the Obscure Media Archive, where I talk about lost TV gems, sold games, bad movies and whatnot. And that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Tofu Waifu. Actually, I just said where we can find you. Cristobal, where can we find you on the socials?
Instagram is tofu.waifu. Twitch is tofu waifu with 2 U's at the end, because there's actually a tofu waifu out there with 1 U who has 1 follower and an inactive account. R.I.P. R.I.P.
That's gotta be the worst one when it's like who's got
it hurts. It hurts.
Not even someone who's
that dead guy. Oh, good.
Yeah, it hurts.
And personally, me, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Kenjinator. You can see it on the screen. You can also find me on Twitch on Sundays with my father at KD in LA. We do a Dungeons and Dragons podcast where my father is the DM. It's a wonderful adventure. I suggest you all tune in to that. It's on Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Once again, thank you so much to my guests for joining me tonight, talking about Evangelion. This was a lot of fun. And for all you viewers out there, thank you so much for joining us. I'm not entirely sure what our next show is. However, I know it's going to be something awesome. Actually, Stephanie, what's our next show? What's it about? Monday is Death Becomes Her, which is a good anniversary. So if you guys love that, check it out. Once again, thank you so much. This has been Nom Talk review on the Nom Talk Network. I have been Kenji. Thank you so much. You guys have a good night. Now get in the suit, Shinji. Get in the suit, Shinji.
Get in the robot.
Praise Misato.
Stupid idiot.
We can't
get in the robot.